Hello Indie Warriors, Old Gamer Joe here. You know, here at I Dream of Indie Games, we're all about bringing a voice to indies the best we can. Yes, some of our reviews have to tell the cold, hard truth, but honestly, those reviews are the least fun to make because we want every game on this channel to be great. Sadly, some games just can't be saved. Whether it's poor marketing, a horrible development cycle, or simply the gods of gaming frowning on a release, commercial failures are an inevitability. Here are 5 examples of promising indie releases that flopped, with one exception. And real quick, don't let I Dream of Indie Games be the next flop. Head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to gain Discord access, enjoy early ad-free shows, receive a shout-out at the end of every video we produce, enjoy a new podcast 3 days early, and so much more. But best of all, you'll be supporting indie visibility. Your new indie gaming community is waiting for you. First on our list is Lawbreakers, a promising self-proclaimed gravity-based first-person shooter from gaming legend Cliff Bleszinski's now-defunct studio, Boss Key Productions. The game was released in August of 2017, but by 2018 it was all over but the crying. With the backing of publisher Nexon, Lawbreakers actually received pretty decent reviews, with many critics praising its blend of traditional first-person shooting mechanics and low-gravity gameplay. Players could split into teams of 5, one team representing the law and the other the breakers. Okay, that's actually kind of bad, but whatever. The game offered a good variety of weapons to choose from and featured several modes of play, such as Overcharge, which was similar to Capture the Flag, Uplink, a turf war requiring players to reach specific capture points, Occupy, and even Blitzball. And if that wasn't enough, Classic Team Deathmatch was also an option. All this is to say, you can't fault Lawbreakers for not trying to pack in a ton of content. Originally planned with an entirely different title, Blue Streak, the idea was to make what would become Lawbreakers a free-to-play title. This would presumably grow the user base quite quickly and get more people into the ecosystem, where they could then make in-game purchases for, well, as long as possible. This idea was, however, abandoned, and Lawbreakers launched at $29.99 on both PC and PS4. This would prove to be its first of a few mistakes. Strangely, Cliffy B and company also passed on the Xbox One entirely, which, in fairness, was struggling in the console market a bit. Even still, the Xbox brand was heavily associated with Bleszinski, so you have to think that the audience would have had at least some interest in a new game from the creator of the legendary Gears of War. Ultimately, Lawbreakers was a brutal flop, with the game retaining around 60% of its user base from the beta phase. Spoiler alert, the beta phase wasn't exactly a rousing success to start with either, at just over 7,000 players. A combination of poor decisions, Overwatch dominating the hero shooter market, and a general lack of audience interest all led to an early grave for Lawbreakers. But is it truly over? Well, a few years back, Cliffy B teased a potential revival, so never say never, if anyone wants that. You certainly can't have a video about games that flopped without mentioning the dumpster fire that was Mighty No. 9 back in 2016. This one hurts because I was a backer on this damn thing. Can you blame me though? I mean, who wouldn't have been interested in a Mega Man-style action platformer from one of its original visionaries? Developed by Concept alongside Inti Creates and published by Deep Silver, Mighty No. 9 was a massive success on Kickstarter, one of the first of its kind. With the game's Kickstarter goal being reached in a mere 2 days, things were looking good for the next potential Blue Bomber. Backers would get all sorts of goodies, and the game was supposed to drop in 2015. Yeah, not exactly how things worked out. After a troubled development, Mighty No. 9 stumbled onto all major platforms over a year later, and the finger-pointing then began. Terrible reviews plagued the project, with the game feeling borderline broken, suffering from poor level design, visuals, and technical performance. Even worse, the 3DS version never even surfaced. Inafune did take responsibility for the game's failures, but the damage was already done. Mighty No. 9 was a complete mess from the bottom up, and I guess I was lucky enough to be a part of that. There's plenty more to this story, but I don't want to beat up on this one too badly, as it's already been kicked down multiple hallways, dragged through shattered glass, and flushed down backers' toilets, leaving permanent stains on the bowl. There is a lesson here though. Understand that backing games is backing an idea, and things might not always go as planned. David Jaffe, gaming legend turned political commentary YouTube guy, I guess? Alright, politics aren't really my thing. I do actually have an appreciation for David Jaffe and his work though. He's done some great stuff. Obviously, Twisted Metal, God of War are the main titles that come to mind. Unfortunately, one of his last forays into gaming was a devastating failure, Drawn to Death. Like many games of this era, it was attempting to be the next big online multiplayer third-person shooter. It came from Jaffe's new studio, the Bartlett Jones Supernatural Detective Agency, what a name, and Sony was even on board for publishing. On paper, pun intended, the game game did look kinda cool. It had the art style of a teenager's notebook scribbles, which was rather eye-catching in early previews. Sadly, this would be the first and last game for this new studio, as Drawn to Death ran out of ink in 2018, bringing the entire production team down with it. Today, it is literally an unplayable game with the servers shut down. So what went wrong? Well, it just wasn't very fun to play. The game leaned heavily into edgy humor with plenty of dick and fart jokes that totally missed the mark. It didn't feel good mechanically, and even won a few Worst Game of the Year awards. Sorry Dave, but it looks like it's back to the drawing board, right? That said, few games look like Drawn to Death, and the art team should be commended. It's a shame that this game can only live on through memories and YouTube videos. You know, usually when a game flops, the developer doesn't necessarily make a big stink about it, but that's exactly what Jonathan Blow did when his anniversary edition of Braid failed to capture an audience. Comparing the sales of this release to literal dog shit, Blow did not hold back his comments, even stating that his studio can't afford to pay anyone after this disaster. Look, businesses have their struggles. Hell, I've had times where this channel was pretty dang close to being completely underwater, but I feel like making a public fuss isn't the way to handle that. We all have moments in life where things are doing great one day, and suddenly a drastic turn sets everything back. I've always looked at it as my personal responsibility to do better, work on things people want, improve my product and skills, and that's what's kept the lights on here for 6 years now somehow. So maybe some self-reflection would have been better for Mr. Blow, but apparently John needed to vent on Twitch. I guess my bigger question is, was anyone actually asking for a Braid Anniversary Edition in the first place? Well, clearly the answer was no. Braid is indeed a great game, but perhaps it was time to make the next great game instead. I have my doubts we'll be seeing this franchise again anytime soon. Next on our list is, ironically, Sunset, created by Belgian studio Tale of Tales. Released back in 2015, the game put you in control of a housekeeper named Angela and takes place from a first-person perspective. You'll perform various duties ensuring the home is kept tidy while learning more and more about the world around you. The changes taking place are seen through a window of the house. Interesting concept, right? I kinda like it anyways. So what went wrong here? You had legendary composer Austin Wintory on board. This must be a promising project. And some reviewers really did enjoy this game. They found it very beautiful to look at and even a bit unsettling. The themes of war were appreciated, making some of its gameplay shortcomings more forgivable. The game simply proved too difficult to market, I guess, managing to sell only a shockingly low 4,000 copies. Ouch. Adding insult to injury, half of those sales were from Kickstarter backers. Tale of Tales sadly went belly up, though they seem to still be somewhat active under a new name now, Song of Songs. Sadly, the sun set on this indie studio all too soon. Okay, remember I said there was one exception in this video? That was for The Lord of the Rings Gollum, which I wouldn't call indie per se, given the fact that it has the Lord of the Rings franchise attached to its name and universe, but at the same time, this damn sure isn't something I would call AAA. Things never looked good for this release, with previews showcasing a shockingly low amount of polish or care going into the project. This action-adventure title came from Daedalic Entertainment, a studio typically known for releasing high-quality products, making this incident all the more unusual. Taking place between the events of The Hobbit and The Fellowship of the Ring, players got to take control of Gollum, which honestly sounds fun in theory, but fun it was not, nor was the development cycle, which was plagued with multiple delays. This game performed so poorly that Daedalic quickly canceled plans for another Lord of the Rings release, laid off a huge chunk of staff, and shifted to publishing only for all future projects. There are stories about the work conditions not being the greatest during this development cycle, and with reviews as low as the 2s, heads were certainly going to roll. Looks like this one wasn't so precious after all. That's gonna do it for this list, folks. Boy, that stunk, but hey, we hope you enjoyed it and were entertained at the least. Be sure to like, subscribe, do all those great things. Head over to the Patreon and support independent content. Voice to the voiceless. I'll see you all on the channel. For far too long, you, the gamer, have been denied honest gaming coverage. Indie developers and publishers have lost their voice, but no longer. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to join this epic campaign for indie visibility. The echo chamber trembles as our message grows louder. Voice to the voiceless.